The world is fading. For over a decade it has been in conflict with an illness, the Big C. The most brave and most wise offered aid and foretold the end of things, but none were there to heed their warning. So it was that the decay persisted and spread, only thwarted for brief spans of time during the Eastern conflict and the alien invasion. When the time was right and opportunity was given, the Big C then attacked the heart of Azeroth and bled it dry until it was on its deathbed. Yet hope remained. The most downtrodden and neglected of the races rose up to defend their home. A jolt of life stirred the world and every being inhabiting it. The sweet flavor of vanilla brought peace, splendor, and joy. Years passed and the threat of evil left the minds of lesser men, appearing only to those who would seek to destroy it. Its display of dominance over the world depressed the legends that stood vigilant in days past, and they faltered now, giving in to sorrow.
The year is 2023 and World of Warcraft is in a precarious position. 4 different versions of the game are running simultaneously, and seemingly the direction of each one is not certain. Retail is in a slump from which no new expansion can uplift it. Revolution and complete overhaul in the form of WoW 2 is needed in my eyes, or years of steady changes and fixes. Both of these scenarios are unlikely. Classic Wrath's future is settled firmly in the bosom of retail's failures, and these 2 versions are blending together with each new update. Classic Hardcore's appeal is finite, and while it has the potential to retain a small core of players that will always go again, it will never have the staying power of a regular game mode. In this time and day, Classic Era has the most potential if harnessed correctly. If its path differs from Retail and Wrath, it can truly become great again.
I hope you enjoyed Hugo's voice there. He's very good at explaining things. But I'll try to continue myself. So, I have been playing Classic Hardcore recently, and it reinforced my thoughts on the game as a whole. Namely, changes have been made to the game that are, in my opinion, the first real gameplay changes in a long time. And there is a lesson to be learned from this. So let's explore one of those changes. The one-day lockouts for dungeons. The intended effects of this change obviously were to lessen the spamming of dungeons in order to level up, which for many people in the first place ruined Classic. The second one would be far less boosting going on. And both of these effects would result in a more enjoyable leveling experience. Or at least it would create a new meta that was more desirable in a hardcore environment. Now, I also think that there are unintended results, or at least secondary results, which would be less BOE twink gear, so that would be blues and epics, although because of the massive population of the servers, there still is a lot of greens and a decent amount of blues. It would be far more if this change wasn't implemented. Then there's less cloth and enchants, which dramatically changes the economy of the server. And of course there's the new gameplay or leveling meta, which, metas will appear in games naturally, and there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but it is still a new meta that runs alongside other metas for other versions of the game. And that's always a good thing in my mind. And the last one is a feeling that I have had, and I assume a lot of other people as well, which is an incentive to create alts or more alts in order to do more dungeons, because who doesn't like dungeons? So I firmly believe that this one-day lockout change should have been implemented in the middle of Classic's lifespan, or at least it should have been tested and the reaction of players gauged. That brings into question, what if this was implemented in retail? Well, there's no reason to do it, and it wouldn't have nearly the same effect, because changes like this have knock-on effects that would only make sense in classic or vanilla, because it is the best game ever made, or one of the best games ever made. It's actually a world, a second home to many, with social structure, with an economy, with a massive world to explore and conquer. And now is not the time to get into detail how this was achieved or why it still remains the same after almost 20 years, but you would be hard pressed to find anyone who disagrees that this world was meant to last while the other iterations were not. And so we get back to the intro, where a copy of Galadriel mentioned the big C. It's not cockdick, it's not cancer, it's complacency. That is and always was the silent killer. Because think about it, Blizzard have never dared to break the mold that was set in Burning Crusade. Every expansion follows its formula, and for a time, sure, yeah, don't fix what ain't broke. But it did break a long, long time ago, and a fix was never attempted in my eyes, only the continuation of a worn out and battered success story. But this is the first time, as I said, that actual gameplay changes were attempted on, admittedly not the live classic servers or live retail servers or whatever. They made a new servers especially for this, but you can see how changes like this can be made to the live classic server, and I think that the most potential at the moment, at this time, is implementing changes to WoW Classic in the hopes of making something new, making something that will last and making it properly. How do we proceed while avoiding the limbo of mediocrity at best and failure at worst? Well, here's one way the fate of Azeroth could go. Take the baseline, the fundamentals, the bedrock of Classic, and build upon it. Imagine a progression path after hitting 60 in the form of ascended classes. Imagine social features added to the game which would prolong its lifespan indefinitely. And then imagine all the immense content of all of the expansions rolling into Classic in one form or another. But for now, let's focus on a few social features and one of the ascended classes for this video. Because WoW's core gameplay consists of class-based combat, and you do that the majority of the time you play, I think focusing on that as the fundamental of this social structure is the key. Each class will have special functions and duties to perform in order to ascend. So imagine you're a Night Elf Hunter. For some of you this will be easier than for others, but you choose to become a scout at level 40. Your mission is to head to Darnassus and meet an already made scout in the form of an NPC. There you do reconnaissance work for them, spying on the horde, your main task being the spotting of mages and warlocks and their activities. On the other hand, you can choose to enlist with the Stormwind Guard and become a deputy. There, your duties would be much different than those of a scout. You would be on the lookout for mercenaries mostly, be they allies or enemies. At the same time, a human rogue receives a message upon reaching level 40 to go to Ravenhold and become a mercenary. There, he receives the time and date when it's best to sneak into Stormwind and steal valuable information, for which they will get paid well. Your duty is to stop him. He is also given a list of mages and warlocks that have been spotted by friendly scouts. These spotted players are marked for execution as soon as they go out of major settlements, and then they can be assassinated by mercenaries. Finally, the rogues gain the ability to trade with Elintreas, where he provides them with his secret stock, and adding to that, the ability to communicate and coordinate with the opposing faction. To what end, that's up to them. This is just one example of what can easily be done with a few quests and vendors added to the game. It pits two classes against each other in a cat and mouse game, which already have good tools to fight, that being flare and stealth, trap and disarm trap, disengage and shadow step, hunters mark and vanish, and so on. So this game of theirs persists until they ascend to outlaw and ranger. I will now put all of the classes on screen to see what they would have to do to ascend, and what their ascended class would be called. For example, when ascended, new avenues of gameplay open up for each class. A troll archmage, after ascending, is not an arcane, is not a frost, is not a fire mage, meaning he can freely switch talents at will, as in retail. He then becomes able to mentor mages, players and NPCs alike. These interactions are, of course, optional and do not provide player power. The Archmage can visit the Cleft of Shadows and write their name into the records of mentors looking for an apprentice. An Undead Mage visits the Magic Quarter in Undercity and picks this troll as her mentor. Now they have a line of communication and can talk about anything they wish. This can be as simple as adding their name in the friends list and then talking through whispers, or it can be something wholly new, designed by Blizzard. Until the undead is an archmage, this communication can go on, and of course it can go on after that, but the main purpose of the communication is no longer needed. In stark contrast to that optional correspondence, the troll can also have an NPC who would be automated to do tasks for the mage as a lifelong apprentice, so something like Medivh and Khadgar. These tasks are mainly centered around what the troll's social duties were and still are. He can send this NPC to do the work that the troll used to do. Again, these things are very easy to implement and can spark countless interactions and forms of entertainment to be enjoyed while waiting on the next content patch to come out. This video is a form of therapy for me, and I don't think it will go past the double-digit view count. But in any case, if you have watched until the end, I would greatly appreciate your thoughts on the topics I presented and the video itself. So, thanks for watching and have a good one.